as we've heard from the panel here, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a need to be more flexible. And Cubic believe that there's three pillars to an urban mobility system. The first is the ability for payments in one account. The second is the ability for users, in a user-centric way, to plan their own journeys. And the third is to use the data that we have in a better way to facilitate better decisions and more informed decisions for the users of city transport. So, has anyone here been to Egypt to see the pyramids? That's good. For anyone that hasn't, there's probably a spoiler on the next slide. So I went as a child, and my head was filled with dreams of walking through the pyramids, maybe meeting an Indiana Jones-style character, and the romance that was around the pyramids, you know, the sun beating down. And when I got there, I realized that they were a lot closer to an urban environment than I thought. And whilst it was a wonderful experience, the lack of information for me before I arrived meant that my experience was limited. And when you put that in a transport context, you know, we're all happy to drive an hour to work if we're sure that we're going to get there in the hour. If we extend that journey by 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's unexpected, or if we have to change modes of transport to complete our journey and we're unsure, that really has an impact on us as people. So another beautiful destination, Sydney. You'll see the Harbour Bridge there. That's a main transit route in and out of the city. A few years ago, there was a bus fire incident that closed that. And people were encouraged to get out of the car, not travel into the city, to park where they could and use public transport. People that were already in the city and couldn't leave by car were encouraged to take ferries, rail, and that was exactly the right message. Get people off the road, avoid the impact of the accident, and allow them to clear that quickly. The impact of that, of course, was you had people travelling to the nearest train station. The nearest train station in many areas was Wynyard. When people got there were already 200 other people with the same idea. They moved on to the next station that was also full. Buses weren't arriving at the right time to be able to manage that demand on the transport network. And it was a pretty terrible day for everyone involved. So Transport for New South Wales have recently tendered a contract. Cubic have been awarded that with some partners. And that's for the provision of the Intelligent Congestion Management Programme. So that aims to improve situational awareness on the network, to improve via a common operational view, the awareness of multiple modes of transport. So holistically, what does the transport network look like in Sydney at any time? How are the users being impacted by incidents on that network? And how can we best respond to incidents? Also, how can we predict, based on an incident in the city, what people are going to do around historic data, around what would happen if we modal shifted people onto other modes of transport to alleviate the problem. And there's a strap line there, predicting 30 minutes into the future, acting in 5. So we want to predict 30 minutes, you know, what's it going to be like in Sydney? And if there is an incident, we want to be able to act within 5 minutes to alleviate the congestion that's caused by that incident. That's one of the benefits. I think we have to consider equality in what we do. We have to consider social inclusion. This system and the model for urban mobility has many more considerations than financial infrastructure or the systems that are supporting it. It has to be person-centric, and it has to give an equal experience for the customers that are using transport in the city, or we'll never transition away from people using their own vehicle. So how can we achieve that? Well, we have to share data, and data at the moment has a value, and that makes it a hard commodity to share. And what I'd like everyone here to think about is, what data do you have that is valuable? How are you sharing it with cities to benefit users? And what can we do to overcome the existing barriers in sharing that data so that the users of our cities and the transport that is provided have a much better user experience? Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.